Would he hear about your unity? Would he hear about your partnership? Would he hear about your striving side by side, working together for the advancement of the gospel? And so as we look, the very first section of verse 27 is really a very introspective, individual type of look for Paul. He's saying, everybody, each and every one of you, take a look at this. He says, only let your manner of life be worthy of the gospel of Christ. How do you do that? How do you check and see whether your life actually measures up to the worth of the gospel of Christ? It's kind of like the idea of, or if you're familiar with the Old Testament, one of the minor prophets, his name is Haggai, and one of the phrases that kind of keeps resonating in his book is the idea of consider your ways. It's like, take a moment, pause, and just think about your life for a minute. Consider the way that you do things. And how does that match up for him? How does that match up with what God has revealed through his word, through the Pentateuch, through what he has given, the law? How does your life match up? Now, for us, living in, where the New Testament reigns, we look and see, how does our life measure up to the gospel of Christ? Live your life. He says, only live your life in a manner that is worthy of the gospel. And I saw a pastor that shared at Passion 2011 this year. His name is Francis Chan. He actually spoke on these verses, and he actually brought a little scale out. And he said, this is what it should look like. So he has the scale, and he takes his Bible, and he kind of rolls it up, and he sets it in on one of the deals. He says, it should be the case that when you set the Bible over here, when you set the gospel over here, that things should balance out. That your life should measure up to the worth of the gospel. Now that's difficult to do. But it's something that we actually need to take the time to actually think through each and every aspect of our lives and see, does this measure up to the worth of the gospel? Am I living only in a manner worthy of the gospel? I mean, think of what are some of the things of life? Work? Are you working in a manner that is worthy of the gospel of Christ? Recreation? Are you recreating in a manner that is worthy of the gospel of Christ? What do you do with your downtime? Is it computer? Is it vegging out in front of the TV? Is it going to a movie? Is it just sitting around on Facebook? Is it messing with your iPhone? Whatever. I'm a technology guy, so those are the things that kind of resonate with me that I find hard to put down and put away. But what are you doing with your time off? Are you living it? Are you using it in a manner that is worthy of the gospel of Christ? Or do you think, I'll get to that later? Or that's a Sunday morning or a Sunday night kind of thing. And so I live my Sunday mornings and I live my Sunday nights in a manner worthy of the gospel. I know that because I'm in church. So I'm good. What about the rest of your life? He says, only live your life in a manner worthy of the gospel. And it's a very hard word. It says, only live it in a manner worthy of the gospel. Very, very hard. And I love the next two words because it's the why. Only live your life in a manner worthy of the gospel, so that. Now, whenever you see that, or most times when you see the word so that, I give you full permission to channel your inner 5-year-old and just say, but why? I mean, my son's not old enough to understand the idea of why, or to ask that question yet. I'm sure it's coming at some point in time. But why, Daddy? But why? But why? But why? But why? And the ongoing question and answer, and question and answer, and question and answer, and answer and answer. But whenever you see the word so that, go ahead and ask that question. Just let it out. But why? Only live your life in a manner worthy of the gospel. But why, Paul? He says, so that whether I come and see you or am absent, I may hear these things. So that your life will resonate with the gospel. Live your life this way, so that as you live your life, people see your life, and your life is different, not only through word, but also through just the way you live. People like to quote St. Francis of Assisi in his famous quote of, at all times preach the gospel. When necessary, use words. Now, I like that, but then I also have a yeah, but. Because it's not just about the way you live, it's also about the way you speak. You must speak the gospel. Because there are a lot of nice people out there who do nice things who are not Christian, who do not believe, who are not saved by Christ. Nice things do not make people Christian. Hopefully Christians are nice people, and they are sacrificial and doing things for others. But you're not a Christian just because you do nice things. And so that's the only caveat I would have to what St. Francis of Assisi said. But he says, only let your manner of life be worthy of the gospel, so that these things I will hear. And I love these things that he says. He's like, I want to hear basically 4 things. And this is what I'm looking for. He says, number 1, that I may hear of you that you are standing firm in one spirit. I talked about marching band before. Some of these have kind of a relation to marching band. So the idea of standing firm in one spirit. Usually, regardless of how good or horrible the athletic team may be on the field, the band is usually probably the most spirit-filled group and the most excited. If they're doing chants, they're screaming and yelling louder than anybody. They're blowing horns and doing all this stuff, trying to generate excitement for the team. Whether they just gave up a 99-yard touchdown pass or whether they just lost the game by 50 points, whatever it may be, they're there to energize everybody somehow in some way. And so, this idea of one spirit, this idea of standing firm, that in marching band, if you reach a set and you're supposed to be still and play and nobody else is moving, if you're still kind of out of place, you're not supposed to move. Even if it looks terrible, you're supposed to stay there and hold your position, stand firm where you are, and continue on about what you're doing. Because the idea is that this is all one unit, and we stand together, even if some of us are out of place. We stand together. We work together. Sometimes we have to stop and stand together, even if someone's foot is half step, or whatnot. They've got to figure those kind of things out and work through them over the course of the season. But the idea of standing firm in one spirit. Paul says, I want to hear that you guys are standing firm in one spirit, that you guys aren't letting little things get in the way, that you aren't acting like a sieve and blocking some of the things, but letting some even little things get through, that you're a wall and you prevent little things from getting in and hindering the Spirit in you. The second thing he says is, with one mind striving side by side for the faith of the gospel. And this is actually 2 things. With one mind. The idea of unity. The church cannot advance the gospel if there is not unity. If the body is not unified, it's going to be really hard for people who hear the gospel to say, oh, well, yeah, this is really great news, because obviously you guys are all doing so well together and are really unified in all this. Unity is the lifeblood of the advancement of the gospel. Because as we are unified in Christ, we move forward. We stand firm together so that the gospel is advanced. It says, striving side by side for the faith of the gospel. The idea of partnership. The idea of working together.